Now, an alien invasion, could it really happen? The US military is making plans just in case.
What are the official plans for contact with extraterrestrials? Will they come in peace or war? And what can humanity do in the face of alien invasion?
Yes, it is best to be prepared for anything, and Professor Paul Springer from the US Air Command and Staff College would advise the military in the event of an invasion. He had to get special government clearance to talk to us, and I spoke to him earlier. Paul, it's an incredibly difficult thing, isn't it, to plan to fight back against an enemy we would know absolutely nothing about?
Well, that's absolutely true, but at the same time, we make all kinds of contingency and war plans against enemies that we never expected to face in combat. And so the idea that maybe the enemy will have something technological or doctrinal that we've never foreseen is something that we try to plan for any way that we can.
Well, obviously, if we did get invaded, these aliens would be much more technologically advanced than we are because we didn't even know they were there. How would you go about fighting an enemy that was just so infinitely superior in technology?
Well, the first thing you'd want to try to do is preserve your forces as best you could. You would want to learn as much about the enemy as possible, and that would mean things like trying to find vulnerabilities, trying to capture technology, but survival is your first priority, because if you send all of your forces into the field and have them destroyed by that superior enemy force, then when you do find a vulnerability, you won't have any opportunity to exploit it.
What do you think would be the alien plan? What would they do first?
That really depends on why they're here in the first place. If they're here for the extraction of a specific resource, for example, they might want to just eliminate any resistance that might block them from their objective. If, on the other hand, their goal was actual occupation and conquest, then they would probably have to prioritize anything that they perceive to be a threat to their own dominance. And so that would probably start by wiping out as many communications networks as possible and eliminating as many weapons as might represent some form of threat either to them or to the resources that they're trying to extract. So they might very well want to counter every nuclear weapon, not because it represented a threat to them, but because it might destroy whatever they're here to collect.
Is this something, this kind of planning, that governments around the world do consider?
It is, in the same way that governments do plan for any future potential calamities or conflicts. This is the type of thing that, because it's neutral, you're not provoking a fight or assuming a fight with a country that you might want to maintain a good diplomatic relationship with. If you insert alien in place of some human civilization that you might come into conflict with, then you're far less likely to create any kind of a diplomatic problem.
Wouldn't it be a strange situation if humanity had to band together if we were fighting alongside, I guess, Russia or the Taliban?
It would, but keep in mind that many of the greatest civilizations in human history have been formed basically to counter a common enemy. And you look at some of the great world powers of the globe today, and you find a lot of them formed because of the fear of a common enemy. Take, for example, the United States, where you had 13 colonies, each of which pursued its own interests and its own goals until they had to band together to try to win their independence collectively from the British.
You make some very good points, and we're lucky to have you should the worst arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I couldn't help at one point in my discussions privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together.
Sounds like something out of a movie. UFO encounters here on Earth.
But that's exactly what firefighters are now training for.
Only on ABC 15, Christopher Stein shows us the disaster guide you'll be talking about.
Sightings like the Phoenix Lights have generated questions and made believers out of skeptics. And this 600-page guide may lend credibility to UFOs. It's the Fire Officer's Guide to Disaster Control and said to be found in firehouses across the U.S. The book covers everything from fires to floods, but it's Chapter 13 that takes an unusual twist in firefighting techniques titled Enemy Attack and UFO Potential.
It would not be remiss to give some thought to the part that fire departments might play in the event of the unexpected arrival of UFOs in their communities.
The book, written by 2 retired firefighters, addresses what first responders could encounter.
You may have engine trouble upon approaching the scene, and radio contact could be lost with your dispatcher. If at night your headlight could go out, the city could be blacked out, and your portable generators may malfunction.
No, this took me by surprise.
Believers like Jim Mann see the book as an opportunity.
This is a real phenomena that we should deal with. We should deal with seriously.
So, is it for training purposes, or is it enough to warrant a UFO education red alert?
This is something that could really happen in our lifetime.
It even asks, how do you treat injured aliens? Are first responders aware of the potential physical injuries?
Some fire chiefs have little confidence in disaster plans, especially those dealing with UFOs or enemy attack.
We contacted several fire agencies regarding this book, and some even called us. However, not one admitted to using it for training, although some are aware it exists.
Yeah, you know what, Chris? It just shows you that serious professional people are starting to take this whole subject of UFOs and ETs. They're starting to take this seriously.
Jim Mann investigates sightings and encounters for the mutual UFO network known as MUFON.
This is a real threat to this planet.
MUFON has its own investigative guide seen here publicly for the first time.
And I don't think we're crackpots. I think that we're just people that want to be aware of what's going on. We don't know where we came from. We don't know where we're going.
And one of the authors of this book says many people miss the point regarding that chapter in UFOs, saying previously, quote, whether they exist or not is not the issue. It's the perceived existence which creates the potential for panic, injury, and even death.
Good morning. My name is Carol Rosen. In 1974, after being a 6th grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space. And I said, you know, teachers don't stop until June. He said, no, you have to understand, this is February. And we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies, he said, against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system, the first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids. And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.